Hey guys, so my name's Sean. This is my first video. I showed you guys how to do shingles for a house like this. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do the entire house. This is all just built out of pink XPS foam, and I'm going to show you how I did it because it's simple, it's lightweight, it's super sturdy. These things cannot be crushed. You got to watch out for the edges and whatnot, but yeah. They're super solid, and I really, really highly recommend them as a technique. So here's how to build them. Okay, so my first step, I'm going to go ahead and use the Proxon here because that gives me the best cuts. And honestly, this is a tool that if we're doing this kind of thing, you got to get one of these things, man. I am so pleased with it. Please pardon my big scratching here. This is why you don't loan out your tools. Smart. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use the Proxon. I'm sure you could find a different way of doing this if you needed to. I usually, at work, I use like a drywall knife to a drywall razor to cut down 2-inch thick pieces of foam. And as long as your blade's nice and long and sharp, it cuts pretty much like butter. The trick is getting it nice and square, and that's a little trickier. So the good thing about this is you can cut it perfectly square. I've already cut this down to width. It's just under 4 inches. I'd like it a little wider, but this is the size of piece that I had, so it's not really a big deal. The footprint for the house that we're going to build today is just a typical 3x4 inch base, just like the one that I showed you in the example. So the first things first, we're just going to measure this out to 3 inches, since the other dimension is already set to go. Measured out to 3 inches, and we're going to get this thing cracking. I'm going to use the square side, however, and it helps to have square edges, you know. So we're just going to run this through here twice to get 2 identical blocks. Ah, yes, love that smell. The smell of melting plastic is the smell of a swelling heart. All right, so we have these 2 pieces. The next step is to shut off your Proxon, and then we're going to cut these into the triangular shape of the roof. Now the trick to this is twofold. You want to glue these together with hot glue first. That gives you a nice kind of base to start with when it comes to cutting this down. When you glue them together, you can actually shape them a little bit more and take off any of this like excess that's on the edges, get them all the right size and make it nice and clean. Okay, so I'm going to go inside real quick and hot glue these things together, then I'll come right back out. Okay, so I glued these together, and I also glued on a little bit more to the top because I wanted just a little bit more to the peak of this roof. I wanted it just a little bit taller than I had before, so I'm going to give it just a little bit more height. What I'm going to do first is run it through here and just kind of clean up the edges and make sure all of these are square and clean. Perfectly flush. I don't want any overhang. Ooh, we have an interesting situation where some of this is really crooked. Okay, so I'm going to just tighten this up a bit. I'm not real particular about the measurements on this because I'm not trying to go for a specific size. As long as I'm being as long as I'm making it custom, then I don't have to be real particular about size, right? I'm going to slice this off. Make sure you go real slow with this much foam cutting with the Proxon. This thing's pretty powerful. I have it cranked up to about 5 right now. And, oh, there goes my heater. Have it cranked up to about a 5 right now. And that's enough to get through this plenty without any trouble at all. But you still want to make sure that you're not going too fast so you don't break your wire. Okay. All right. Good. Okay, so my heater turned on, and it's going to be on for a little bit, but I went ahead and cut this down and trimmed it up and evened up just all the edges so everything's nice and flush now on all sides. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and angle this so that I can cut my roof at a nice slope. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this bad boy down. Make sure your Proxon is off before you do this. I just want this thing to go right to the center of this. So I'm going to eyeball it first, and then I'll measure it to make sure that I get it to the right spot, just because there's a little bit of tension on this, and that means it's got a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, this is just under inches. All right, that looks about right, actually. So I think we're good to go here. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this thing straight through with this angled cut, and that should give me a nice slope for my roof. So again, I'm going to keep this cranked up pretty high. I'm going to move it through relatively slow just because I don't want anything to go sideways. I want to break my, my wire on this. We're going through quite a bit of foam here. Okay. There's that side. And we're going to do the other side as well. This is turning out to be a little bit more like an alpine kind of cottage than a real medieval style thing. It's a very steeply sloped roof. Okay, so there we go. There we have a nice roof shape. Now the cool thing is if I save these pieces, I can actually cut them down into gables that can go off the side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with this one. I'm going to use the other half and put them together like this. And that's actually going to give me a really neat like square cut here. So the part that I'm going to use is the one that's thick on top, okay, because that's where our peak for the roof is going to be. I'm going to scoot this in just a little bit because I don't necessarily want this as wide as the other roof is. I'm going to slice this down just like so. I'm also going to slice it down on the other side. Scoot this in a bit because I don't quite want it that high. There we go, that's better. Scoot it down. Ta-da! Very nice. Cool. So now I have this great gable that I can attach. Whoops! If I can hold on to that or anything. I can attach pretty much anywhere I want to the face of this. And that'll give me a nice architectural detail on the side of this. Okay? I can also use these to create the chimneys that I use for my pieces. So again, I'm going to just slice this down one more time. I'm actually going to cut this straight because that's how we do this here. I'm going to set that aside. That little bit's popped off. Slide this down. Try and do this as efficiently as possible. Might be a little tight. Let's loosen that up a smidge. Don't want it to break as soon as I turn it on, do I? And then the next thing I'm going to do is decide which one of these I want to use for my chimney. I think I'm going to use this one. It's got a nice kind of angle to it. And then, let's see. How do I want to cut this? So I want that to be there. There we go. Okay. So we're going to give this a nice deep cut here. Wait a minute. All right. Use your math brain. Use your math brain. I want that to go like that. I want this piece. I want that. Aha! Okay, so now I figured it out. I know what I want to do. This geometry stuff is tricky. All right. I'm going to crank this up. I'm going to go right down here. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay, come on. You can do this. I believe in you. You brave cookie. Yeah, some of that glue got a little bogged down in the middle, but not too bad. Okay. Righto, so now I have a piece that I can use for my chimney if I like. So I can stick this right onto the roof. I can trim the inside edge of this a little bit, or I can just pack this sucker on the end and you know, shorten it up as I like, you know, and then that'll be a good foundation for my chimney. Okay, so I'm actually going to cut it square. So that I have a nice rectangular shape to the chimney. Actually, I'm going to cut a little thinner because the last one I made like this, I made a little too thick, and I didn't really like how chunky the chimney ended up becoming as a result. So I'm going to cut that down a little bit, and so now we have a nice piece that looks like a good chimney. So we get a little piece with a chimney, and we have a little gable. So we have a nice looking kind of foundation for our house. And I'm going to put the chimney on the opposite side though, because that's just going to look better. Okay, so that's a good start for our little kind of steep roofed, steep sloped cabin. So it's pretty much as simple as that. We're going to go ahead and continue to the next step in the process, which I'll show in the next video, which is to kind of assemble this, decorate it, and add the base for the roof, which we make out of chipboard. So I'll see you in the next video.